Welcome to Personal Mastery Training. I'm your host, Alvin Brown, former world class athlete turned entrepreneur and consultant. Join us as we learn from guests who have conquered their inner battles and share their journeys to success. Get ready for inspirational masterclasses and thought provoking strategy sessions to fuel your path to personal mastery. Let's dive in. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Personal Mastery Training. All right, in this episode, we're going to talk about a really interesting concept. One of my clients came in and she was struggling with a persistent thought, a negative thought, and she was attempting to let it go. And she said to me, I guess I should just let it go. But I couldn't let it go. I was trying to let it go and but I guess that's the answer. I just got to really work on letting it go. And I'm thinking to myself, it's difficult to just let it go. How many people have tried different things, snap a rubber band or repeat a phrase, change my thought, or whatever it is, the message is. They're attempting to just snap their fingers and the thought goes away. It doesn't work like that. How many of you have attempted to do that and it just kept coming, and you kept beating yourself up that I should just be able to change my mind and stop thinking about that? And I said to her, I don't know if that's the first step you start with, is just change my mind. Because it was that easy, no one would have any issues. Everyone would be easy to interrupt their pattern and change your mind and move on, be happy. Oh, geez, I'm thinking a negative thought. Why not just be happy? Okay, click, I'm happy. No, it doesn't work like that. I think there's a reason the thought came to teach us a lesson. And I think step number one, I said to her, is identify the thought. Why is it here? What's it serving? Dissect that a little bit so you can get the lesson from it. As I'm always saying, the wisdom I'm always repeating is don't get through it, get from it. Because if you're getting through something, you're gonna repeat it over and over again. If you're getting from it, you're gonna learn the lesson, dissect it, chop it up, and then when it comes again, you recognize it and you do something about it. You build a defense against it. But if you're just getting through it, you're just gonna get through it over and over and over again. So this is the thought I want us to kind of dissect is it just throwing it out? Oh, change them. No, there's a reason why it keeps coming back like a boomerang, because you're supposed to take a look at it. What's it teaching me? This experience that keeps coming back. What can I do about it? Who do I need to talk to? What resources do I need to do? So you got to do something about it. So it's a signal. And then dive into it. And then possibly, once you've exhausted it, then you can, quote unquote, flip the script, change your mind, throw it out. But I don't think it's going to go anywhere if you don't deal with it. So I'll leave it there. We'll dissect that, pass that around, and see what my fellow cooks in the kitchen has to say about this when we cook up some of this soul food. All right, I'll pass the ladle, pass the mic. Here we go.
Yeah, so this is this one's near and dear to my heart because it's been, like many humans, it has been a challenge over the years, these negative thoughts that come in and show up, pop in, right? And what do we do about them? What is the best approach? And as you were speaking earlier, Alvin, I thought about this quote. I pulled it up. It was from Henry David Thoreau, and I think it applies in this situation. He said there are 1,000 hacking at the branches of evil to one who is striking at the root. Right. So we're chopping a weed down. If we just keep clipping the branches of this weed, it's going to keep going back. But if we can pull it out by the roots, then it will no longer aggravate us, right? It'll be a non-factor.
Love that. Love that.
So one of the things that helped me is something Bob Proctor said about habits. Because again, if you're having this reoccurring thought, that's a habit, right? It's a thought habit. And Bob Proctor, to me, had the most beautiful definition of what a habit actually is. at its core. And he said, habits are beliefs that live in the subconscious mind and have the ability to manifest themselves without the need for conscious thought. I mean, that's a deep quote, number one. Okay, so I'm going to say it again.
Mm-hmm.
Habits are beliefs that live in the subconscious mind and have the ability to manifest themselves without the need for conscious thought. So, if I have a habit, there's a belief living in my subconscious mind that's created that habit. Okay. And so, if I can identify that habit, that belief, and say, you know what, that's false. That's not true about me. And so, if that's a false belief that's manifesting itself without the need for conscious thought and hindering me, and I attack it at its root, saying, you know what, that's not true of me. That's no longer true of my situation. And so now now it becomes a self-limiting false belief. And if I know it's a false belief, I can get rid of it. That's not true. And every time the belief comes up, the false belief shows up. I'm like, that's not true. That thought, that's not true. And sometimes I'll think that to myself, and other times I'll say it out loud if I'm by myself. It's not true. All right. It's not true. I'll have, because I'm a professional speaker, and so I've spoken thousands of times. But even after thousands of times, there'll be days where, man, they're not going to like this. The audience is not going to like this. That is not true. I'm like, it's not true. I spent way too much time getting to this level and preparing this presentation. That's not true. They're going to love this. And sure enough, they love it. But if I walked onto the stage and had the attitude and had the body language that they're not going to like this, probably not going to. So I really love identifying those thoughts. And because here's the other side of it. If it is true, we need to fix it. Okay. Right. If there's something negative that we're saying about ourselves, it's true. We need to go fix it. Right. But oftentimes it's a self-limiting false belief. We identify that as false. Now we can truly deal with it and get rid of it so it doesn't create this reoccurring theme. And with that, I'll pass the mic.
You said a word that I love, the word habits. And you're so right. Our habits create us, our habits even shape the way that we think, the way that we act. They're so powerful. Okay, but I wanna dive a little bit deeper because I believe for most people, it's one thing to fall into a bad habit, okay, let's say, but how do you break out of it? How do you identify the root of the problem? And how do you even attack the root if you cannot identify it because you're just on autopilot because you're just driven by those bad habits, right? So what I want to talk about is a word that I love also. Another one is systems. Okay. Systems. What do I mean by systems? Okay. What's my process on a day-to-day to hack, okay, my thoughts, hack my behaviors, hack my emotions, okay, to see through them and see where they actually come from so I can decide whether they're beneficial for me or not. Okay. Me, it's my base and it's part of Alvin's also process. Okay, it's in there, but for me, it's courage. Okay, courage to one, face yourself, face the situation, so you can just stop and just look at what's happening. Okay, look at what's happening in a non-reactive way. Okay, just having the courage to do that. Okay, because if I keep going and keep going and keep going because I run away without even knowing it, I'll never really figure out what's happening to me. But if I have the courage, okay, to whether I'm afraid of this, whether this causes me anxiety, to just stop and look at it, I can see what it is. I can see what it is. And I can see, okay, this situation makes me behave this way. Now, next question, why do I behave this way? Okay, and now I can actually have more clarity. From there I can set a direction, and from there, you know, I can change the course, or change my habits just a little bit, so that I can have a positive, let's say, result for me. Okay, so system. And then I also found this wisdom I want to share with you guys. It isn't the mountains ahead to climb that wears you out. It's the pebbles in your shoes. Okay, the pebbles in your shoes. So once again, okay, it's not the big actions. Okay, it's the little things. It's the little things. And the good news is that we all have the ability to do something about the little things if we are aware of them. Okay, if we are aware of them. So, what are your systems? Okay, are you taking time to really define systems that work for you? But beyond that, simple systems that are also universal, systems that are in the end fail proof. And in my opinion, depending on where you put it in the process, for me, having courage is a fundamental system in any situation. Sometimes having courage can simply be okay saying no. Sometimes having courage can simply be taking one step back, taking one deep breath. Okay, taking one deep breath so I don't just react. I can actually stand here, be still, and look at what's really happening. Examine my own thoughts. Examine my own thoughts. And find a lot of truth in there. Find a lot of presence. Okay? Presence. Because I believe, yeah, we all have this power. When you become present, man, you step into your power and you can see so much. You can see so much. What is being unconscious in the air is, in the end, it's not being present, right? So what systems can you use to bring you back to a little bit of presence, to bring you back to a little bit more consciousness, so that you can make informed decisions that really work for you? And with that, I'll pass the mic.
Oh boys, some hot stuff there. Hot stuff. You tend to fire up on that one. All right, so let's go back. Um, Dr. Charlie brought up some really powerful stuff, striking at the root. That is the key, is to getting to the root. But man, that root can, as you said a couple things here, where the weed, you mentioned weed, and that's what these thoughts are like. They're like weeds. They get entrenched in the foundation, in the ground, in and they just keep coming back. And the one thing about weeds that we all know, they're hell to get rid of. And if you don't tend to them, they overflow, they grow. So this is a perfect word for this conversation we're having, because weeds grow through concrete, for God's sakes. They can grow, find their way around, and they grow no matter what you do. You put fabric over them, they not dark fabric, they still some manage to grow through. They're persistent. So it's a great way to think of these thoughts is you thought you went and see the psychologist, you did all these things, and it still keeps coming back unless you go in and chop away at that root, dive right in, go to the deep source of it and pull it out. And you have to do that. And then you brought up Ray fell in love with the word habits. And I'm glad that's the word he chose, because I thought he was going to choose my word, which is the beliefs. You said habits are beliefs that live in the subconscious mind. Absolutely, like that weed. And I'm going to go with the beliefs thing. I looked it up. Beliefs, here's the problem with this definition: something believed, an opinion, or conviction, a belief that the earth is flat, right? This is the term it gives me here. Think of those words: an opinion, which they say opinions like a butthole, everyone has one, and conviction to it. We see that today in politics. A conviction to a belief. And it looks where it's leading us, right? Into where turmoil. So what do you believe and what's a conviction to it? 2, confidence in the truth or existence of something, not immediately susceptible to the rigorous proof. And a client of mine and I were talking about the idea that today what's missing is critical thinking today. People are just waiting for one person to give them some sort of truth, a sound bite, the thirst trap or something to catch them, and they're onto it. They're locked in. It's their truth now. A statement unworthy of belief. And 3, confidence. Some strong words here: confidence, faith, trust. That's what beliefs are. So we lock in this thought from some emotional thing we went through, or someone we believed in, or a party, or whatever, and we lock it in. We now give up, critical thinking. Did we even check it for validity? No, they said it. I totally believe in them. And imagine that you're believing in someone or a theory unchecked. That's unbelievable. No, don't even bother cross-checking it. Just go all in and buy it. You're all in. Let's drink the Kool-Aid, as they say. So beliefs can lie in there, and now they become your truth. You're blinded to any other option. Blind. Think about that word. Means you can't see nothing else. And you refuse, by the way, to see any other option because of the beliefs. So you're carrying around this habit that leads you, and then Ray mentioned habit. Let's go to that word. And systems. He's 100% right. Everything that we are today is a result of your habits and the systems of getting you there. And we've never wondered about, you take smoking. Smoking becomes a habit and a system. I would do it every morning before I get going. I see people come out of their house, cold, chilly morning here in Canada, having a smoke, but you ask them to come out and have a walk around the block, and no way, man, that's crazy. You're nuts. But you'll come out to smoke that first puff of air, fresh air, and it's going to be nicotine. That's a habit. And half the time why these addictions are so hard to quit is because they're part of your habit, part of your system. And it's unconscious. You don't even know it's a system. When I get home at 8 and I sit in this chair, I feel like doing this because now it's a habit and a system. This is how you reconnect. But if you eliminate the habit, not every time you want that cigarette. When you're not home at 9 till 10, you don't actually want it at 8. It's only when you sit in that chair because it's part of the system. And that reinforces the thought pattern, the habit, and everything else. So, beliefs. What do you believe? Because the habits, your system, and then the belief now becomes rooted in the subconscious mind. So this is why it's difficult for this person, my client, to say, let's just flip the script, change in my mind. Why can't I change my mind? It's driving me crazy. Yeah, because that thought pattern too, by the way, is part of your habit. When you have a quiet moment, when I asked one of my clients to incorporate meditation in her routine, she said, I can't meditate. Why not? Because the thoughts. See, when people get a quiet moment and they're chilling, the thoughts come in. And there's a habit. The weeds start to grow the minute they're quiet. So they don't do it. And it leads them to have troubles. So you go blind, identify. That's why habits are so difficult. I often go back to boxing, and any athlete would notice in any sport. When you learn a habit, I'll go to something actually a little easier too. when I started speaking, going to Toastmasters, 14 years ago, one of my habits was to pace, was to move back and forth. You know what I was doing? It's the same pattern I was doing when I boxed. I used to bounce around, right? Getting ready, bounce. So when I got nervous, my habit was to pace and move around, this distracting movement. Then they pointed it out because I didn't know I was doing it. It's called unconscious. So once I became aware, oh, watch myself. Ah, got it. All right. I'm going to cut that out. So you go blind to it. And I love what Ray said. It's not the mountain, what he brought back, the wisdom he brought back. It's not the mountain that you're climbing that's the most arduous. It's a pebble in that damn shoe that keeps distracting you from climbing that mountain and attacking it with full vigor. So what's the pebble in the shoe? And we say, it's funny, we say little things, and I think we talked about this in one podcast. What do we call the little things? The little things when they're actually the big things. You ever heard someone say, or you said it before? It's the little things in life that makes life so wonderful. The little things like love, connection, downtime, peace. They're little things. What do we call the big things? Home, the car, the things you can't take with you. Yeah, those are the little things. Let's just flip the script on that one. The big things are the love. That's what we should be chasing. And when we start to flip the script on our language with the little things, big things, then we start chasing love. We start chasing connection. We start chasing peace. Imagine the world chasing those things instead of the insatiable need for more stuff that we call big things. So when we talk about then the little things in life, we're talking about the little things like that bother us, like peace and not having it, struggles. Those are the big things. And Ray brought up courage. Yeah, life. And part of my next book coming out, as Ray pointed out, was the 4 pillars of mastery. And courage is the second pillar. Clarity is the first, being clear about what you want in life. That's such an overlooked thing. And then courage is the next one because you need courage. Life, to get up every day, man, life takes courage, like massive amount of courage. And courage isn't, see, when we say big things, when it comes to courage, we say big things like fighting the war, uh, you know, running into a building. Hmm. I wonder if those are the real courageous acts or the little things are, I love you. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said that. Forgive me, please forgive me. Those are the biggest things. Or, hey, I don't want to do that. Here's my real talent. Or, I'm gay. I'm this. I'm whatever. I love this person out of my culture. Blah, blah, blah. Those take courage, more courage than running into a building. Because if a building was on fire, a lot of us could, if it's right, settings right, we could do that. But man, it's so struggle. People struggle for decades with things like, I love you. I'm sorry. Forgive me. So the little things, again, we flip it on the little things. And presence leads to power. Absolutely. The issue with presence is you got to be present and deal with. Presence makes us raw. It's easy to get lost in distraction. To become present means I have to be vulnerable and raw. So it's not as easy, right? That's why people avoid being present. Like that lady said, I can't. Every time I don't like to be quiet. I like distraction because the demons come in when I'm quiet. See, so distractions. They have to deal with the pain of their thoughts and the shame, the guilt, whatever it is they're dealing with. So, anyways, powerful stuff, fellas. Powerful stuff. Throwing it at me. I'm gonna pass the mic.
Lots of golden nuggets being laid down, and I've got some really solid notes here. One of the things you had mentioned there on courage, Alvin, and what that looks like, right? And as men, a lot of times we view courage as, hey, there's a there's a there's gonna be someone breaks into the my home, I'll pop out be courageous, protect my family. I remember this one time I was at a conference, and it must have been about 120 men in the audience. It was electrical co-ops represented about 3 different states here in the States. And we're talking about this concept of courage. And I said, right now, if a bear ran into this room, about a third of the men would jump out of their chairs and try to subdue that bear without even thinking, to protect themselves and the rest of the group, without even thinking. Maybe half the room would do that. But if I asked the entire room to come up here and talk about your feelings about your family, oh no, right? They would not pop out of their chairs to do that. Well, it takes courage to do that too. So we got to also understand what courage looks like. Accurately define it, and then we can practice it once we truly understand the depth of it. And you mentioned also how false beliefs can become a habit and blind you. And it made me think of this, and I looked it up as you were talking. This is 2024, but we do have a flat earth society. I mean, it's a group of people who believe that the earth is flat, and they cite they cite scientific evidence, and here's one of them. Einstein's relativity proves. In this article, we show how ridiculous the globe truly is and it's unfathomable to me that people would believe that this planet is flat. But there's a society, they have a website, and it's amazing that there are people that have that belief, but it shows how strong beliefs can be, and they can blind you to the evidence that is contrary to a belief that we might hold. Then we talked about weeds, right? These negative thoughts, these false beliefs are like weeds. And it instantly reminded me of a garden. Anybody that's had a garden knows this is true. You got to weed that garden every day. If you get busy one week and you didn't weed your garden, boy, how fast the weeds come in. And if you leave it unattended for too long, the weeds will take over. The weeds will take over the garden and choke out all the good vegetation that you have growing there. So gardening, you have to weed every day. When you weed every day, it doesn't take very long. It's really pretty quick. But if you let time go by and then go down, now those weeds have gotten bigger, more established. They're invasive. And so we're talking about the garden of the mind. And so the same process needs to happen. As Ray mentioned, we need to have a system in place that allows us to weed our mind every day. And when we do that, that gives us the best opportunity to be successful. With that, I'll pass the mic.
The Garden of the Mind, I like that one. I wrote that down. Talking about flat earthers, I used to have a coworker who was a flat earther, and during lunch every day, I would sit whenever I was at the office. Okay, I would sit with her, and I would just ask her questions. I would just ask her questions, and we had the most amazing conversation. Listen, I didn't believe anything that she said, but she was so 100% into that belief. And I was also quite amazed by her because she didn't care about what people think. She had her opinions, she voiced them, and she was happy to speak with someone who wasn't judging her. I would literally just throw questions at her to see where she was going with this. So most amazing lunches for sure. I heard a lot of things. I heard about the reptilians. I heard about about a lot of stuff. Okay, a lot of stuff. So with that aside, I was thinking about monks. Okay, let's look at monks, for instance. Why are monks, in most instances, they're recognized as wise people, right? Some of the wise people on this earth. So I looked this up, and I took some of your points from what you guys were saying too, and I kind of dove into it, and I found 5 things. Okay, 5 things. First one is exactly what Dr. Charlie was just saying, is habits, but self-discipline and routine. Okay, self-discipline and routine. So if we look at our minds as a garden, and you have to weed it every single day, well, when we look at months, they're very disciplined. They have this daily routine. I wrote this down, whether it's physical, whether it's through meditation, this strengthens their willpower on one end, their resilience on the other end, their patience, perseverance, a lot of things. Because again, nature always finds a way, as we know, okay? As we know, these weeds, they can get through everything, but at the same, or even in my neighborhood, there's an abandoned house, okay? An abandoned house. And you can see vegetation is kind of growing all around it. But why is it that when I live in my house right now, there isn't anything growing through the floors, anything growing through the sides, because we take care of the house, right? We take care of the house, we live in it. Same thing for our minds, okay? So self-discipline routine, that's one thing that they do. Second thing is, I'll read it for you guys. They devote significant time to observe their thoughts, emotions, which leads to insights about the mind and how it shapes perception. So some call it meditation, some call it mindfulness. We talked about presence, really what it is, but all there is to it is observing your thoughts, observing your emotions, instead of just being a slave to them or reacting to them all the time like we tend to do. How about we just try to observe them, okay? Another thing, when we do that, when we observe, I truly believe it creates simplicity. It creates simplicity. We tend to overthink things and overcomplicate things all the time. Nature is highly complex, as we know, but so simple in its execution. I believe our minds and anything we're trying to accomplish is the same thing. The more we find simplicity, the better things are, and it allows us to focus on what truly, truly matters. And that's how we can find fulfillment. And here's the big word, from within, instead of looking at it on the external, okay? So from within, create simplicity. Another thing, I wrote it down, they study sacred philosophies. So those communities, they emphasize studying wisdom literature, as they say, but this connects them with centuries, okay, of whether it's philosophical, spiritual, universal, insights on human nature. On human nature, that's another thing. Nothing new is under the sun. Right? Nothing new is under the sun. What we're talking about every single week, and we have been doing this for years, has been there for centuries, maybe millennia. We have forgotten more about it. Okay, we have forgotten more about it than we can learn. So just by taking time to really study these things, it connects a lot of dots. And lastly, they focus on transformation. Okay, on transformation, because they transform their own minds by doing these things. They rewire their brains, they change their habits, right? They change their habits completely rather than changing the outside world. We're not capable of changing everything that's outside of us. What we're capable of is changing us every single day. So I thought these 5 points were very interested and just connects with everything we talk about, because again, it's nothing complicated. It's really nothing complicated. It's things that absolutely every one of us can do. Now the difficulty is doing it consistently, because you never arrive It's not because, hey, I did all 5 today, Alvin. I did all 5 today, Charlie. I'm good. I don't need anything else. Just go 1 week through life. Just 1 week through life and see how much you remember even just next week. It's about committing to it every single day, about these simple things. These small things, as Alvin said, aren't small at all, aren't small things at all. And like Charlie says, and how Charlie is also exemplifies, is being self-disciplined and creating that routine. So with that, I'll pass the mic.
With that, he says, he just dropped a whole lot of. All right, so I'm gonna go back to Charlie. Charlie, Dr. Charlie, check it out. You mentioned the weeds in the garden and how, again, no new ideas. This has been said by many philosophers. The weeds in the garden, it overtakes. Jim Rohn is one of my favorites who talks about the weeds in the garden. And when you start thinking about grooming, it must be groomed on a regular basis because if you leave it, the weeds choke out. Think about, I was at my dentist on the weekend, and you think about anything in the human reality. If you don't brush your teeth for a few days, bacteria that is always at work to take over the host. You must shower. I was listen to Arnold talk to someone about why do you work out every day? Well, I ate yesterday. I think I need to eat again. And I ate 10 years ago, so I think I do need to eat again. It's part of who he is, and he just works out. Anyone who works out regularly knows this as a fact. The 2 weeks from the gym, you start to see your body go down. It starts to get a little softer. You lose some muscle tone. I mean, so things are always nipping at us to the destruction, basically, and not in a negative way, but that's just is what it is. The weeds. So we have to groom daily. Daily. You bathe every day to get rid of bacteria and not to so it doesn't lead to odors and so my point is this. When it comes to mental work, for some reason, we think we don't have to do anything. Like we saw a good movie. Yeah, I'm gonna change my life. We go to Tony Robbins or whomever, we go to their seminar and think that's it. It's over. I learned a new idea. I'm ready to change. I walked on fire. I'm gonna go home and fix everything. No, it's work. No wonder by Wednesday, so Monday you come back, you're convicted. Tuesday you're kind of losing it. Wednesday you're back to the cubicle and you're quiet again. I mean, you have to be constantly. So if you use the weed metaphor, we're always being pulled towards mediocrity, towards non-painful work, distractions. Because it's not painful. It's easy. It's easy to have the candy. It's easy to have the instant gratification. But the long-term discipline is a little bit more difficult. So yeah, the weeds. This is why, again, my fourth pillar of the pillars of mastery is consistency. Why are we here every Sunday? A week or two away from this, it's difficult to, one, build that routine, that rhythm again. Two, the weeds are coming in. So I weed every week. I weed every day in between with a routine, a system that gets me to clean my garden. But every week we meet and we weed because we know the plant's going to get to us. So Ray was talking about that lady I have a client who's completely believes in so many things. I have a few clients. One believes in the reptilian culture, which is, I listen and I even asked him, can I record you? And he said, sure. He's proud of it. He believes in that. And then I have another person who believes the earth wasn't formed only 5,000 years ago. And it just, so We walk around, like I said, buttholes. Everyone has one. Everyone's an opinion, and they buy into something. So they believe it. Monks. You mentioned monks, Ray. Have we ever looked at monks and go, "Wow, what a queer bunch of group, huh? Look at them. They're wearing this. They're wearing that." See, and they do all these weird things, and it doesn't look fun. It doesn't look fun. It looks too structured, which explains why change is so hard for us. Because you see, change and that discipline has to come, it's a whole encompassing thing. It's not just changing my mind only, it's changing my habits of my physical things that I do. It's changing my environment. It's changing my cultural beliefs. It's changing. So this is why change is so difficult. And this is why they look so queer, the things they do. Because they realize that if you can't be half pregnant. You got to be all in. And that's not fun for a lot of people. Imagine living a life of just discipline all the time. This is why it's not fun. But this is also why we admire them in a way, because they're doing things that a lot of us won't choose to do. So I guess the thing is how do we marry and get a little bit of the middle where, because life is, there is some sacrifices they do make, in our opinion, not to them, but in our opinion, as in giving up things and maybe um, connection to family and in order to change. It's extreme, but they can show us some things that we need to do. So when someone out there is thinking of changing a habit, you can't change your thought and habits. So if you're still doing this over here, still doing that over there, allowing yourself to hang out with this people or that group, it's hard to change because they've become part of the system. That old friend who calls you every Saturday and say, "Let's go do this." Well, every time you do that, it ends up in some trouble, but you still don't give that up, right? You see, so it's like um, so changing habits is difficult. Again, that chair you're sitting in right now. In NLP they say when someone's upset, if one of you two came to me and you're upset, I will not hug you or I will not touch you when you're upset. What happens is, in the highest emotional moment of being upset and I hug you, I actually anchor that hug to your emotional upset. And so now when you're in a good mood and I hug you in a certain way, you start thinking about the things that possibly could upset you, or all of a sudden you feel a mood change and you want to talk about some problems. Right? So you tend not to anchor, especially if it's emotional. Don't anchor things, which we do, right? People anchor in the car, in the this, at the work, at the position, at this, at that. The person, you sees that person, they make you think about this, and there's anchoring going all the time. So, anyways, discipline, the D word, it's a tough one because it comes with a cost, giving up something, giving up comfort. And that's what the monks do. They work a lot on giving up the comforts that we enjoy. And it's extreme, but they are extreme examples, right? So our goal is how do we get that middle ground where you do on the weekends you can have the wine or the whatever it is, one beer if you enjoy that, but not a six, one that you know how can we marry the two of them together, right? That discipline of the monks to the this in here and then meet in the middle. So yeah, it's really interesting when we think about this, running it back to where we started was, do I just throw my thoughts out? No, it's not that easy. And I don't think you should just flip. It's difficult to just, no matter who you are, you have to be, I don't know who you have to be. You'd have to be a monk. And they observed your thoughts, by the way. You notice that, Ray brought it up actually. We flip back. They don't throw the thought out, they observe it. They study it, they dissect it. They go back into history and look at, because you're right, there is no new information, by the way. There's some additions to old information, but there's nothing new. I've not said a word, and this is something that we preamble. If you go back and listen to a few of our podcasts, we say that we don't own land, we don't own truth. We're not on here attempting to tell you any truth. We're here to remind you, one, to stop, get off the treadmill every so often, and think. And we're to one idea. My mentor, God bless him, he said, one idea, one, well executed, can change your life forever. We're not on here attempting to give you the holy grail to ideas. We want to say one thing that will flip the script for you, because that's all it takes is one idea. So with all that, I'm gonna send it back for some few last words as we wrap it up. Oh, Dr. Charlie.
Another amazing discussion today, and I think there's just so many wisdoms to take from it. And so hopefully there's a handful of things if you're watching, you can take and implement immediately into your life. And I think one of the big themes through all of this for me is just that system that Ray talked about, and then the discipline that Alvin talked about to execute that system is so important to getting where we all want to go. So for me this week, that's going to be my word, is discipline, because without that discipline, we're not going to be able to weed the garden of our mind on a daily basis. With that, I'll pass the mic.
Now I'm the one on mute.
Yeah.
Yeah, discipline is key. Discipline equals freedom,
Yes, sir.
as we say. For me, my word this week is simplify. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Simplify. When things are simple, you can see clearly. And when you can see clearly, you make your job a lot easier. It's difficult, as you both said, to just flip the script. Today, I'm super motivated. Let's completely do a 180. Doesn't work like that if it's gonna last long term. If you really want to change, uh, this is the hardest path, really. But when you simplify things, you give yourself a chance, and then all you gotta do is really show up. Is show up. You have your checklist. Check the boxes, the simple boxes every single day, and commit to doing it again and again and again. So I'll go with simplify.
All right. Awesome. And I just want to add one more thing. When Ray spoke about simplicity or clarification, I wonder if, see, part of being clear is that you have to now do something about it. And I think that's why people avoid being clear. Right? Truly clear. Because once I get clear on what the problem is, say in a relationship, oh man, now I'm clear we don't belong together. She, I'm gonna have to do something about it. So I'll just keep it going. I'll just ignore being clear. Anyways, something to think about. So mine is my point, and I'm gonna leave it today, is beliefs. You gotta check your beliefs for validity and critical thinking. Because when you allow a belief to go into the subconscious mind on a repetitive basis, good God, blindness ensues. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go blind. You can't see it. As Ray was saying, that coworker he talks to, absolutely no room for any kind of other consideration. Flat, it is flat. I'm gonna fall off of that edge. And everything else I see is fake. They're just fooling us with those round balls of orbs that we see floating around. Right? From that's just spooky mirror stuff. It's all flat. So, beliefs. What do I believe? Check it, poke it, and be open to other ideas and other. There's one thing about life so far is that there is no 100% black and white. Life is just color of gray. Some people are right about something. Some people are right about this. Some people are right about the reptilian. There might be some truth in there somewhere of some kind. But hey, how far do you go with it? So, anyways, beliefs. So, with that, as we said, we don't own truth. We're simply creating a bridge. We're bridge builders every week. We build a bridge between some tools, some construction materials, and the final project. And it's up to you to take what you need and cross that bridge, and hopefully we do provide that for you. So with that, you've heard of our final word. You've heard everything else. I want to shout out to our other mate who's not here this week, Brandon. We'll see you next week. Until then, my friends, we'll leave with our usual. We wish you peace.
Peace.
A lot of love today.
Love.
And sprinkle in a little bit of
Soul.
All right. That's how we do. All right, everybody. Until next week, like, subscribe, share. Let's build a community of people who want to search, want to go on the journey and make an impact. All right.
Yeah.
Until next time. Peace and love.